On that particular theme about the cost of data right across Africa, let's take you to Ghana for this next story. Citizens there are pretty outraged by what they say is pricey internet packages that have been rolled out by telecommunication service providers over there. And remember, the same companies that you see in South Africa, MTN in this case, are the same ones you're going to be seeing in Ghana. Now, with the latest introduced rates, consumers of data from companies like MTN, for example, will have to pay nearly $4 for 1 gigabyte of mobile data. Now, remember, in a country where income or the earnings of the average person are pretty low, relatively speaking, especially to income, that's extremely expensive, and it would essentially contribute to keeping a lot more people offline. Let's discuss this a little further. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai is joining us now live from Accra with more details on this. So, purely on a price basis compared to the rest of the continent, Nabil, Ghana has, relatively speaking, some of the cheapest data costs in dollar terms in Africa. So, explain to us from a Ghanaian perspective, why are there these protests?
Thank you very much, Rama. Let me give you a background to this whole story. So for some period now, a lot of Ghanaians have been complaining about poor services from these telecommunication networks. They complain that they are not getting value for money, especially when it comes to the use of data. For instance, they say when they buy data, the internet is sometimes very slow and they are not able to do much with the data that they buy. Now, in 2008, the government introduced what it calls a communication service tax of 6%, and these telecommunications networks decided to absorb the tax. In December this year, in August this year, in the mid-year budget, the government reintroduced the communication service tax and increased it from 6% to 9%. Now, these telecommunications network decided they will not be able to absorb the whole 9% of tax that has been imposed on them by the government, and decided to transfer it to the consumers. So we saw an upfront deduction of data and also call credits whenever consumers were buying data and also call credits from these telecommunication networks. And a lot of Ghanaians were not too happy about the sudden change of the system. The government decided it would intervene and ordered these telcos to stop the deduction, upfront deduction of customers' data or call credits, and find a new system of really taking this tax that has been imposed on them of 9%. Now, just this month, from 1st December, these telecommunications networks decided to reconfigure their system, which saw the fact that when formerly used to buy a 1 gig data of $2, let's say, now it's jumped to $4, and this is what the cry is all about. The fact that now data has become so expensive, from $2 for 1 gig to now $4, just for the fact that the communication service tax of 9% has been shifted to the consumer. And also the government told the telcos to stop allowing data to expire. This means that when you buy the data, you could use it for as long as you want, unlike what it used to be, where there was a limit to the use of the data. And now there is a hashtag on social media campaign called Save Our Data, where a lot of people are trying to hit the streets to push the government or the telcos to provide better services. Rama.
Right. So one last question for you. MTN, from the data that I've seen from the regulator in Ghana, MTN is a pretty dominant player in the data space. It is home to at least 90% of the 4G connections. By the end of last year, it accounts for nearly 60% of 3G connections as well. As far as the regulator is concerned, though, is this a competitive market, or does it need to rein in MTN in order to enhance and have more competitive pricing across the board?
Rama, there is already a competitive market when it comes to the use of data or even making calls here in Ghana amongst the telecommunications network. In 2011, the government introduced what it calls the mobile number portability to make sure that the competitiveness is really achieved. This allows anybody who is on a particular network to actually move to a different network to make calls or even to buy data and use the internet. Because if you feel you're not happy with a particular network, let's say MTN, you could, on your same MTN number, port or move or switch to Vodafone or Airtel Tigo and buy data or call credits and make calls or also use internet. So that system is already in place. But with what is currently happening at the moment, we don't know what the government will really make about this. But we understand that the government is actually meeting with these telecommunications network to see the way forward, because there's been a lot of complaints from consumers. Consumers are dissatisfied by how expensive data is, and which has been as a result of this communication service tax, Rama.
Indeed, we leave it there for the time being. Nabil, Ahmed, Rufai, live there from Accra, Ghana.